Graduation day was supposed to feel like a beginning, but for me, it felt more like an ending. I should have been thinking about college, parties, and the future, but all I could think about was Owen. My little brother had just turned 14 the month before. He never made it to 15. For 3 years, he fought, if you could even call it a fight. Leukemia had stolen everything from him. The energy, the laughter, the boy I grew up playing baseball with in the backyard. What was left was a frail kid who couldn't get out of bed without bruises blooming on his arms like ink stains. Yet somehow, he kept smiling. Even when the chemo drained him. Even when he couldn't keep food down. He'd still laugh at me when I came home from school, still crack jokes about how he got to skip homework while I didn't. When he finally passed, it wasn't a shock. It was more like a long, terrible storm finally breaking. My parents arranged the funeral, and half the kids from his middle school showed up. Watching them cry, these kids who had grown up with Owen, was unbearable. It was as if I'd suddenly realized the full weight of what I'd lost. No more little brother to tease, no one to confide in late at night. From then on, I was an only child. But when the service ended, I felt something I didn't expect: peace. It almost felt like Owen had been waiting for that moment, like he was relieved to finally let go. If only I had left it there. If only I hadn't gone digging through my mother's closet that week, looking for shoes, I might have never found the photograph. The shoebox tumbled out of the closet, smacking me on the shoulder. Along with it fluttered a photograph. At first I smiled. Owen, maybe 8 years old, cheeks full, a mischievous half-smile creeping across his face, a reminder of who he was before the needles and hospital rooms. But then the smile widened. Not in my memory. Not in my mind. On the picture itself. I froze, staring, convinced it was a trick of the light. His lips stretched into the grin I remembered so vividly. And then, God help me, his hand twitched, just a flicker, like he was waving hello. I shoved the photo under my pillow, heart hammering, telling myself it was grief. That was all, my imagination. But the accident started the same day. First, the shelf collapsed on me in the closet. Then, on the way to my graduation, our car swerved violently off the road and slammed into a ditch. My mother's skull hit the airbag so hard she went unconscious. My father's face was shredded with cuts. I walked away with a fractured rib, but I couldn't stop thinking about the photo I'd hidden. Back home, I stared at it again, desperate for answers. Nothing. Just Owen, frozen in time. But the sense of dread gnawed at me. It was as if the photograph was watching me, waiting. My father caught me with it. The way his face changed, anger, fear, something worse, told me the photo was no ordinary keepsake. He snatched it from my hands with shaking fingers, muttering that I shouldn't touch things that didn't belong to me. That night, curiosity pulled me down the hall. His door wasn't shut all the way. I peeked inside and saw him sitting on the edge of his bed, shoulders hunched, the photograph trembling in his hands. "I know we're not supposed to do this anymore," he whispered. I miss you so much, buddy. I thought this would make it easier, but it's not." His shoulders shook. He was crying. The next day, I forced him to tell me the truth during the long drive back to the hospital. Maybe it was the pain in his hip after the fall down the stairs, Or maybe he was just too tired to keep lying, but he finally broke. He told me about the man outside the hospital, a stranger who seemed to know Owen's case, who spoke like a businessman offering a solution. My parents were desperate, watching their son fade in real life while promising treatments went nowhere. The man had said, "Give me a picture of him before he got sick," and they had. Days later, the photograph appeared in the mailbox. At first, it was just a comfort. Owen smiling, Owen whole. But then he moved. He laughed, he waved. My parents didn't question it. They couldn't. They thought it was a miracle. But the man had left a warning. As Owen's body grew weaker, the photograph would grow stronger. And when Owen died, his soul would be consumed by the image. Anyone who disturbed it would invite misfortune. The shelf, the car crash, the stairs, all of it clicked into place. And suddenly, the photograph in my drawer felt less like a memory and more like a curse. I couldn't keep living with that thing in the house. The way my father clutched it, the way my mother avoided even looking at it, it was poisoning us. And worst of all, I couldn't stop thinking about Owen, trapped inside. Was he smiling because he wanted to, or because he had no choice? That night, when the house was quiet, I took the photograph from where my father had hidden it. My hands trembled as I struck the lighter. For a moment, Owen's face flickered in the glow. He looked almost alive, as if he were about to speak. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "This isn't fair to you." The fire caught the corner, curling it black, spreading fast. I held it until the flames licked my fingers and I dropped it into the sink. In seconds, Owen was nothing but ash. For the first time in weeks, I felt relief, like I had freed him, like I had undone whatever sick bargain my parents had made. I went to sleep believing that I had done the right thing. I had no idea the nightmare had only just begun. The next morning at the hospital, my mother pulled me close. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with something worse than grief. "I wanted to destroy the picture too," she whispered. "But the man, he told me if we burned it, Owen's soul would return to his body, even if his body was already dead." The words landed like ice water. My chest tightened. "So he's alive?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, honey. You know how bodies are prepared for burial." Her lips trembled. "He has a soul, but not life." That night, the scratching started. From beneath the floorboards, 3 deliberate knocks. Then silence. Then again. Louder, harder. By midnight, the smell hit me. Rot, damp soil, something sweet and sickening. I staggered outside, heart in my throat, toward the backyard where Owen's grave lay under the oak tree. The earth was moving, shifting as though something was pressing upward from below. My knees buckled as pale, bruised fingers clawed through the dirt, nails broken and bleeding. And then his face emerged. Owen's. My brother. The same innocent smile stretched across lips that were cracked, gray, and leaking soil. His eyes were black pits, empty yet fixed on me. His voice didn't come from his mouth. It came from inside my skull, filling me like a flood. "You promised you wouldn't leave me alone in the dark." I stumbled back, screaming, but the ground split further. His whole body writhed upward, skin sloughing off in strips, bones cracking as he dragged himself free. The last thing I remember was his hand, small, cold, impossibly strong, closing around my wrist. And that smile. Always that smile. Now I understand. Burning the photograph didn't free him. it brought him back. And he's not here to stay with us. He's here to take us with him.